new decade, a new year, and a fresh start for all of us. We all thought that this year was going to be one of the greatest years ever, but it did quite the opposite. So today I've compiled a timeline and a list of everything crazy that happened this past year in 2020. Already, starting on January 2nd, Australia announced a third state of emergency for the Australian bushfires. Also on January 2nd, an Iranian general was killed in a drone strike. Shortly following after this, the World Health Organization was noted on a strange virus doctors detected. This later became known as COVID-19 or SARS-CoV-2. January 8th, and now the Iran troops just launched a missile attack at U.S. military bases, injuring many American troops. January 16th now brings around impeachment of President Donald Trump, and shortly followed after this, on January 20th, the U.S. recorded its first coronavirus case. January 23rd, and now China has started their lockdown phase and attempts to control the virus. 3 days later, this was followed by basketball star legend Kobe Bryant's death and his daughter, sadly. Now dipping into February, President Trump has now been acquitted by the Senate on both articles of impeachment. Fast forwarding a bit, and we now land on March 11th, when the WHO has now declared COVID-19 as a pandemic, and 2 days later, Donald Trump declared a national emergency in the U.S. amid the COVID-19 pandemic. March 16th is when mass paranoia hit the US and the Dow dropped almost 3,000 points. Now, at the end of March, the Olympics were officially canceled. Just a week later on, April 2nd, we see that we have officially globally surpassed 1 million COVID-19 cases. Just further down the road, on April 9th, New York has now been declared the epicenter of the virus in the US. The rest of April and the majority of May were fairly uneventful in comparison to what the world had just witnessed. We now jump to May 26th, and we see mass protests in the U.S. for George Floyd. This also is at the time when there were mass riots and violence in most of the major cities in the U.S., and this continued through June. Starting off July, we now see a new wave of panic amid COVID cases that soar in the U.S. to all-time highs, and fears are now growing around the murder hornets that were discovered in Washington state recently. Jumping into August 4th, and the brood explosions have just happened due to an accidental detonation of ammonium nitrate that was stored improperly. At the tail end of August, the beloved actor Chadwick Boseman's Sally passed away. On September 18th, the U.S. Sally lost Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, RBG, who was someone who always stood up for other people who could not. She was a legend to say in the least. October 2nd, and President Trump tests positive for COVID-19, and 3 days later, legendary guitarist Eddie Van Halen dies. Jumping into November, and Joe Biden is now president-elect, bringing a new hope into America. Towards the end of November, two biopharmaceutical companies, Moderna and Pfizer, have now announced that their vaccine is highly effective, roughly 90 to 94%. These vaccines are now being distributed at the time of making this video, on December 10th, 2020. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, please like and subscribe. And don't forget to share this video with your friends and family. Hopefully nothing else happens that's crazy in 2020. Otherwise, I'll have to make this video, re-upload it, edit a couple of new things, and hopefully, let's keep our fingers crossed that does not happen. Anyways, please support me on Patreon if you wouldn't mind. Links are in the description. Check out my podcast on iTunes, all that great jazz. And as always, I upload weekly. And happy holidays to everyone who is celebrating. And with that being said, I'll see you in the next video, guys. Peace.